Hi, David.
How you doing, Dean?
David, I didn't. I'm just getting over COVID, and quite frankly, I thought COVID was a show that had left theaters years ago, but apparently it comes back in limited releases, and I must have stumbled into a show. And so my voice is not as good as it normally is. Not that it's ever great, but I think we're going to be great. Uh, Tell folks a little bit about you, and then I want to drop you right into like a hypothetical scenario and see what you're going to say that shocks me.
My pleasure, Dean. Hey, everybody. Listen, I'm a 35-year sales guy. I've done the sales locally, nationally, internationally, and stumbled into this thing called strategy, growth strategy when I
Mm-hmm.
was younger in my career. And I had no idea I was doing that. This notion of a chief revenue officer didn't exist in the 1990s. And so I was doing all this strategic growth. And in my career, I've helped toy companies, newspapers, technology companies reach new heights. And I launched my company back, in October of 2023,
Mm-hmm.
and helping companies go from one market to another, experiencing wonderful and profitable growth.
All right. So here's the scenario that we're going to drop you into. Okay. Uh, you've signed on. You're fractional, so you've signed on a new client. It's a
Yep.
brand new engagement. It's day
Mhm.
one. They're local. You're even going to like walk in, right? On day one, when you walk in for a brand new engagement or a brand new job, what's the dream scenario you walk into, and what's the nightmare scenario you might walk into?
Oh, amazing question. The dream scenario is that they're all coachable, listenable, vulnerable. I know that's a dangerous word,
Mm,
but ready to take on the challenge and listening to what could possibly happen. They're open to ideas. They're
right.
open to, new, not just the same old, ready to make the changes necessary, has the financing, the right talent in place. That would be a dream scenario. The nightmare scenario is literally the opposite.
Yeah.
They bring me in and say, here's what we want you to do. We don't have money. We don't have the talent. We don't want to take the risks, but go make it happen and you do it. And we'll criticize you to death because you didn't do it the way we wanted it to do it. So those are the two extremes when it comes
Right.
up to these scenarios.
Fair enough. Hi, Dan.
How are you, Dean?
Good. Thank you. Welcome to episode one. It's
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
been a long time since I did episode one of something. Tell folks a little bit about you, and then I want to ask you about our day one scenario.
Absolutely. And so I've spent the last 25 years as a sales professional, last 17 years being an executive for a lot of big companies, helping lead growth. And I have started my own consulting practice to bring fractional sales leadership to small to mid-sized businesses to help them, scale predictable revenue and help them reach the goals and ambitions that they all have.
Then let's talk about a scenario where it's a new job, however you want to define that, new job, new engagement, new employer, new client. You walk in and you're the new head of revenue, you're the new head of growth, you're the new head of sales, whatever that company wants to call it. Uh, what's the best case or dream scenario that you walk into, and what's your nightmare scenario?
Yeah, best case scenario definitely are business owners or CEOs that are ready to grow, that they have the resources, they have the time, the ambition, and they just need the help to put that strategy together, put the right people in the right seats, and kind of just ready to take off. I think the opposite of that, of course, is individuals that are fairly convinced that they've got it all together and the change isn't really something that they're embracing, and ultimately, getting in the way of actually having their growth ambitions really realized.
Oh, that's a good answer. Okay, so it's same scenario, still day one. There's been time carved out on your day one to have a short sit down with the CEO. Okay. You sit down, CEO says, look, like, you deal with a lot of CEOs, you do this job in a lot of places, a lot of years. Is there anything that I, as the CEO, should start doing to make sure we get maximum benefit out of you being here? Or is there anything as CEO I should stop doing and get out of so that we get maximum value out of you being here?
Right. Great question. I think the way to get the maximum value out of a fractional VP of sales is to really bring them into the leadership team.
Mhm.
So I think that's the thing to start doing, is actually bring an outside resource, someone with that experience, into the leadership team and integrate them into your business. If there are barriers, if there's curtains drawn and you're not allowed to get in behind and see what's going on, it's really difficult for someone to actually come in and really provide value and add a lot of help.
Right. All right. No, that's good. And then, David, how about you? CEO says you deal with a lot more CEOs than I deal with CROs. So, do guys like me normally do something that they shouldn't be doing, or do they not do something that they should to sort of, strengthen what you're doing or not mute your strengths?
So I think that one of the challenges I find with some CEOs is that they get in their own way
Mm,
because they've been there for so long, the business owner, they founded the company, whatever, and they had a belief of what they really do. And when you sit with the sales team, when you sit with others in the leadership team, you find out that the pain point that you've been solving is not quite what the CEO thought. You find out that the unique solution that people are looking for is
mm,
not quite what the CEO thought it is, because the CEO and the business owners, they haven't gone on the road with the sales team in a long time. They haven't been in front of the customers in a long time. So they're kind of stuck in their old ways. And when you look forward, you got to say these things evolve, these things change, your ideal customer changes. So it's time to listen more than tell everybody what's going to happen, what really is going on. And that's where when you have a good senior leadership, and as Dan said, that your head of sales is there at the table, you need to listen more than talk.
yeah. Okay. So let's switch scenarios now for both of you. Congratulations, you're now the keynote speaker, and the audience has 250 fractional CROs. And here's the thing: all of them became fractional CROs yesterday. So they were in corporate somewhere up until 2 days ago. Yesterday, they're out on their own putting up a shingle, right? And you're the speaker. You're the expert, right? You've been doing this for more than one day. You already know more than they do. So, David, you're talking to this audience. Let's finish three thoughts for them. I'll get you started. You finish what you want to tell them. Okay. So, you're all new guys. Welcome. You're going to be, because you're just starting out as a fractional head of sales, you're going to be shocked by what?
That what you're used to doing in large corp doesn't exist in SMBs.
Mm,
Large corporations tend to work very much in a very different structure. Your stakeholders are different. The interactions with people are very different. Be prepared for lack of frameworks, lack of structure, lack of corporate culture. There's a lot of lacking, and you just got to be prepared to be flexible and adaptable to these scenarios.
and Dan, how about you? What are they going to be shocked by starting out?
I think the thing that they'll be shocked by the most is the emotional resonance that exists in small business owners. They've given their whole heart and soul to these businesses. And when there's problems and challenges, it's not just a corporate agenda. It's not just something that, those of us that come from the corporate world are using to resolve in committees and meetings and investments. These are personal things that are affecting their lives, their home life, their personal life, their day-to-day. So there is an emotional connection that I didn't see in the corporate world that is very prevalent in SMBs.
All right. So, Dan, let's stay with you then. So you're still talking to the same audience. Help me finish this thought talking to them. Many companies or many of your clients just don't understand what?
How to sell and what selling is. And let me clarify that. So many business owners, they know how to talk about their product,
Mm-hmm.
right? They grew it, they raised it, they birthed it, right? So they know how to talk about their product, but a lot of business owners don't come from a selling background.
Right.
So I don't know that they fully appreciate what a professional salesperson does for a living. I think that the number one phrase that I hear that tells me they need my help is, I hired some salespeople and it didn't work very well.
Mm-hmm.
I probably know what the problem is before even asking very many questions if that's the state of mind that they're in. And it's likely just a lack of understanding of the kinds of resources and support and structure that a salesperson needs to thrive. And certainly that's something that we can bring and help them figure out.
Yeah. And then, David, how about you? Many of your clients or many companies just don't understand what?
That these companies you're going to be working with do not have a playbook. They just do not know. The business owner has not transferred the knowledge to the sales team. The business owner hasn't transferred the experiences to the sales team in a way. In their head, they know what they're saying and what they're talking about, but they can't transfer that, and they haven't gone through that experience. And this is where a head of sales would go in, ask the business owner the right questions, interpret, extrapolate what's necessary, then compose a playbook, and a sales team can then run with it. It's really, really hard as a CRO when you walk in there and you have to ask all these basic questions, pain points, ideal customer profile, all these things. And you got the business owner looking at you with this glassy-eyed deer in headlights effect going, what are you talking about? Just don't you know? And it's a really shock when you come into the companies and you got to go back to the basics, knowing that this company reached a certain revenue level. You ask yourself, how did they get here?
Well, that actually, I'm going to ask an off-menu question for both you guys, and either one of you can jump in first. You show up, right? Is it a good sign or a bad sign that the CEO or founder is the unofficial top salesperson or best salesperson in the company?
Go ahead.
Wow, it's really both. I don't know if I can answer that directly one way or the other. I think it's a strength because they certainly understand their market, their customers, the product. Right. So in actually being able to establish a strong sales strategy, they're at least a resource that should be able to help formulate that and really help bring out the things that are necessary. But it likely is a significant weakness in the organization if the owner or the CEO is also leading the sales efforts. And I would say that predominantly because that's not where their time is best spent. We made those individuals leading companies more holistically and really solving a lot of other problems and being less hands-on and allowing other people to really help grow the business.
What do you think?
You know what? I experienced it. Where I was in the toy business, the founder, the owner was the number one salesperson. And all of us were like, well, how are we ever going to grow if you have to be involved in the sales cycle? And he had to be involved in the sales cycle. That was just his philosophy. And over time, he realized the more he was involved in selling, the less he was involved on the business. And so it took a lot of arm twisting, and he finally hired a VP sales. And even then, he still wanted to go visit the top American retailers, and he still wanted to go to the trade shows, which wasn't so bad. But when he realized how he scaled after he stepped back, he took another step back the following year and another step back the year later because he realized he was the bottleneck in terms of the growth because he couldn't work on what we needed to scale. We can bring in the orders, but if you're not working on the inventory and the rest of the business, all of our efforts are worthless. So once that dawned on him, we tripled our business in 2 years.
Okay, so let's finish out talking to our audience of a bunch of newbies. And so, David, start with you, and we'll go to Dan. They're trying to play you off the stage. Some intern is trying to okay, we're done. It's not next speaker, but you got a point to make, and you're trying to tell them as they haul you off stage. The number one thing you should think about, or something you've probably never thought about, when it comes to finding your next position, next engagement, next client, is what?
Repeat that question again, because I'm if you don't mind.
No problem. So, is there anything that they probably haven't thought about when it comes to finding their next client, or something that you just really want to make sure you remind them about finding clients?
Okay. Patience. Be really patient, because small businesses, they still do not understand what a chief revenue officer does.
Right.
They want to put us in as a sales coach, salesperson. They do not understand the strategic side of what we bring to the table, that we're preparing them for real explosive growth. If they want a salesperson, they have to hire a salesperson. If they need sales training, they need to hire a trainer. But if they want to that growth, that's where we fit. And often small businesses still have they want to pigeonhole you into, can you just carry the bag and go sell? So be patient, because that's
Right.
the kind of business, that's what most businesses are thinking today.
Dan, how about you? What advice do you have for people who are going to be looking for their next engagement?
Yeah, so group of brand new business owners looking to grow as a fractional. Networking is absolutely the skill you need to develop. It's very unlikely you're just going to put up an advertisement and start advertising your services and have these business owners walk in the door. And the main reason why is that it's a trust-oriented business.
Yeah.
For a business owner to bring you in as a complete stranger, they have to trust you. And that trust is oftentimes gained through people that they know who introduce you to them, as opposed to just soliciting business directly as a sales rep might normally think.
All right. No, that's good. Okay. So you guys talk to a lot of companies, prospective clients, you guys are networking all the time. Sales is similar to other parts of a business like marketing, in that certain ideas or tools or concepts become popular and then they fade and whatever. So like, tell me what, behind the scenes, you're talking to these folks, what's overrated these days and what's underrated when people are like, oh, we should do this. And so that's really overrated. Everyone's talking about that. Or what do you think companies like should do more of? And it's just criminally underrated that they don't pay attention to it. So what's the overrated and what's the underrated? We'll start with Dan.
Wow, that's a great question, Dean. Probably needs a lot more thought than actually probably provided a spontaneous answer. But I'll tell you one thing I feel just instinctually that might be overrated is SEO. It is popular. It's where everybody really focuses a lot of their energy in building marketing. And for some businesses, it's probably critical. You just have to know your business. But SEO is not for everybody. And especially in the world of small businesses, it's highly unlikely that investment is going to drive massive growth in a business. Right. So I would caution people to consider, whether that is really going to deliver for them. Underrated, I find that differentiation or specialization in sales and marketing roles is actually something that's not appreciated. And I'll give you an example of that is that, oftentimes a salesperson is hired to be this uber resource that is supposed to be extraordinary at going out and cold calling and finding leads and drumming up business, building relationships, building trust, giving presentations, closing deals, negotiating contracts. And, just to throw into that, they usually are asked to manage all the customer sat issues and solve problems after the customer's been on board. I'll tell you, I've hired hundreds of salespeople in my career. Very few human beings are good at all of those things. They're very different talents. So the more a business owner can appreciate some specialization within sales roles, and the same thing falls into marketing roles, right. You get power and can accelerate growth quite well by appreciating the value of different resources doing what they do best.
Wow. And David, how about you as you talk to companies and founders and CEOs about sales? Right, what's overrated these days and what's underrated?
What's incredibly overrated is the notion that every part of the sales process can be automated. It's not possible. We're still in a press the flesh contact sport, call it whatever you want. And the idea, and I just had it again this morning with somebody who said, well, what do you mean personalized presentations? Can we automate it? Yeah, but no. Like, if we don't personalize it,
right,
the prospect on the other end is going to go, I'm vanilla. You just don't understand me. So forget about it. So I think that we have to be really careful about how we integrate automation into our sales processes. What's underrated, by contrast, is let's get back on the road and go meet people physically. COVID, you started by talking about COVID and your little COVID thing. And we got used to Zoom and team meetings and all these kinds of things. And that has just become now part of our normal sales cycle. But going to physically meet people, taking them out for coffee, a meal, getting to know the buyer in a personal way. You can't
Right.
really do that on Zoom. You can't do that on Teams and Google Meet. Go meet people. And, we've got to get back to that connecting with buyers, or we're just a supplier. We're not a partner. And I think that's lost right now in that whole sales process.
All right.
Well, Dean, can you add to that? This is a great point, David. Such a great point. Here's another thing that's overrated: is you cannot sell through written messages. We've become so conditioned to texting and emailing people. Great for disseminating information, great for scheduling meetings, has its place, but you cannot sell and influence, and you cannot navigate a conversation through written words. You've got to get back to that personalized approach that David's talking about.
Yeah, I had that conversation a couple of months ago with one of my clients, right? And I am not I'm not in sales anymore. And I mean, I'm very hyper specialized, and for me, it is the written word. But I was explaining to this client, like, my role here is to make some stranger interested, like to connect with them. It's the very first, and just draw them in to your world. The emails are not. Most of my clients are in complex selling, right? They're like CompuSecure and Accenture and company. I was like, the sale's not going to be completed based on like any number of sequence of things that I write for you. Right? My job, I'll draw them in, and then you guys are going to like land them. But you can't sell, especially in complex selling or complex B2B. You can't sell just through writing stuff. It doesn't work. It'll never work. And they were like, okay, I guess so. You need a sales team, right? There's a sales team somewhere. I want to talk to that guy. And I started a podcast so I could talk to those guys.
Of course.
Okay. So, David, I'll start with you. I'll go to Dan. What defines sales in 2025 compared to earlier periods?
Wow, what defines sales in 2025 today is the opening. Like we're if you go back to that ABC, always be closing. That was that mindset from Glenn Ross, and we focus all the time on the close and the close and the close. It's not like that anymore today. What defines sales today is the opening. Is how you start with the client. Where do you start with the prospect? Understanding their needs, and the rest of the process will actually fall into place properly. There's a whole joke today. Opening is the new closing. Mm-hmm. And so if you are not good at opening, and I don't mean prospecting, I don't mean lead generation. That's a whole other thing. It's that first step with the client. If you don't get that under control, the rest of the process is almost impossible today. It's too competitive out there. Buyers are too smart. They think they're too smart there because the knowledge and the information is all on the internet. So I can just get whatever I want. I can get prices, whatever I want. But if I don't show people that I understand their needs and I have the right unique solution for them, everything else is a waste of time. So stop focusing on the close, start focusing on the open.
Dan, how about you? What sort of defines sales and selling in 2025?
I think much like David was talking about, because information is so prevalent and accessible, the average consumer, whether that be a business owner or just those of us at home, we typically are well prepared before we ever talk to a salesperson. We know a lot about products and services and what we are interested in long before there's an engagement. So I think it's very much about the relationship and about knowing their clients and about understanding their needs, which is very much what David was talking about, is that you have to differentiate yourself and add value to that conversation because the information already exists. Whether it's understood or not, that's a question that might have to be clarified, but they don't need you to just disseminate information anymore. They don't need you to like sell, features and specs like commonly people used to do. Ultimately, they really need to know where you add value to that conversation and how you can help them. And so it needs to be more personalized probably than ever.
So, okay. I think this is going to be a really easy question, but I know some people have trouble with it. I don't think you're going to have trouble with it, Dan. As you talk to companies who you might bring on as a client, right? what's a red flag and what's a green flag? Where you're thinking like the polite thing you might think is I'm not a good match for them as a red flag, and as an impolite, it's like no way, that is just a dumpster fire. I'm not going near that. So, what's a red flag when you're talking to prospects, whether you communicate it to them or not, and what's a green flag?
Yeah. I think the biggest red flags for me are usually where there are pervasive issues that come to the surface very quickly. I usually come to the table talking about their sales capabilities and how to grow revenue. But if it becomes quite evident that they're also extremely challenged in their operations and their manufacturing, and if their financials are upside down, like those are definite red flags, because I don't have the ability to fix all those things.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if they can invest all day long in trying to sell more product, but if the other wheels are not, in harmony and working, I think we're gonna have some challenges accomplishing
And
our
like,
goals.
what's a green flag? Maybe even sort of a surprising green flag. Green flag for you, even if it's not for anyone else.
Yeah, is even though it sounds like a negative, I think the biggest green flag for me is when business owners have reached the point where they recognize they need help. And they're open-minded. And that usually is that state of mind where there's a bit broken.
Right.
Like there's some emotion there. There's some challenges. So it might not be the most pleasant conversation initially, because there's going to be a lot of baggage ultimately that might come with that conversation. But oftentimes that humility almost is what leads them to wanting to change and wanting to see new ideas and ultimately investing in solutions that will help them overcome all those challenges.
My dad used to say, people change when it hurts enough. If it doesn't hurt enough yet, they might talk about changing. They're probably not going to change yet. And David, how about you? As you're talking to prospects or just like discussing potentials with other people you network with, what's a green flag for a client to move into, and what's a red flag for them?
Well, I'll start with the red flag, and that to me is when you have a really bad culture in an organization. Bad CEO who's a control freak, high turnover. Your sales leader is banging his or her head against the wall. The quality of the salespeople are low. An organization that says, and I think Dan mentioned this earlier, and I apologize, I know that if you go check out another clip, people, Dan said this really well, but you don't value your salespeople, so you're just whatever. I mean, if you're a commission only, if your salespeople are commission only, then you're not valuing the salespeople. And that to me are all red flags, like across the board. Like these are things that I don't think really we should be having in 2025. On the other hand, a green flag is, and I'll repeat it. It's the pain. We've done it. We tried it. We're ready now to try the right way. We want to do the research. We want to understand the competitive landscape. We want to understand the nuances. Maybe going into market A is a wrong idea. Where should we go? Right. There's an open conversation. They're willing to try. They're willing to share. Everybody is willing to express themselves in a non-judgmental way to say, hey, what about, could we consider, what do you think? And letting, people like myself and Dan come in and say, let's do the right homework. If we do the homework right and we come to you with the right plan, let's go execute. That would be the beautiful green flag.
Okay, so final scenario. Only one question. Well, really two. You guys are going to carry the load. I don't have to do the work. It's the beauty of being the host. So you're in a building, a skyscraper. It's full of CROs, fractional CROs. Okay, you're in the elevator going up to some floor. Someone else gets on the same elevator. You're the only two people. The only thing you know about each other really is that you're both CROs. So we don't curate guests on the podcast. Everyone picks their own date and time, which means you end up in an elevator with another person who is, like, broadly speaking, doing the same thing you're doing, but is likely focusing on different kinds of markets or different kinds of companies or whatever. So I'm going to have you guys ask each other a question now that you're in this elevator together. Dan, you can go first, or you can defer.
Sounds like a game show now, dude. Thank you.
Player pass.
Yeah, David, I think the first thing I would want to know if we were meeting for the first time in an elevator is about you. I would want to know. So answer this. What is it that you enjoy the most about what
It's a
you do?
great question, Dan. What I love the most is to watch the faces of the people that I'm working with smile, that elation of success. Um, my personal why, and I did that whole Simon Sinek business, is I love to help people.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they want 1%, 5%, 100%, watching their reaction, that emotion, love that. Love that. Now, Dan, my question to you is, what makes you so unique? What is your competitive advantage? Who do you like to work with? And how can we collaborate?
Yeah, excellent. What makes me unique? I've been a salesperson for as long as I can remember. And ultimately, one of the things as an executive with large corporations that I never forgot about is where I came from and what a salesperson goes through on a daily basis. And ultimately, I bring that to every client that I help support, is help them really develop a sincere appreciation for the role, the complexity of it, the challenge it, but also, the excitement of it and the benefit that it brings to a business and also to those individuals. I think selling is one of the most amazing careers you can have, and it's rewarding, fulfilling, and I think that the more people appreciate that, the more good it does.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. Before we officially sign up, um, Dan, who should be contacting you these days, and what's the best way to reach you?
Absolutely. So I really want to talk to business owners, CEOs, those that are looking to grow their businesses, those that just need a little bit of help figuring out exactly how to do that. And certainly, I think the very best way to get a hold of me is actually through my LinkedIn profile, which is the Dan Merrill on LinkedIn.
And David, how about you? Who should reach out to you these days, and what's the best way to get to you?
Look, I love talking to business owners, CEOs, founders, you name it, who want to just want to grow out of their market. They want to figure out how to grow out of their city, state, country. I've done business on almost every continent in this world. Antarctica is yet to be conquered for me. And language, culture, anybody who's really intrigued about exploring growth, especially in these uncertain times, love to have a chat with them. And the best way to reach me, you can come to my website at zerogrowth.com or info@zerogrowth.com as an email, or LinkedIn, David Solomon, LinkedIn.
All right, guys, both of you, thanks for being here so much. And episode 1, fabulous. Having run 170 plus episodes of my other podcast about fractional CMOs, I now know that it takes about 10 more minutes to talk to you guys than the marketing folks. So clearly you're a bit chattier. So I'm gonna have to factor that into my timing and make sure I have it. So that's awesome. Loved it. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm Dean Way. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.